was third, then came Kevin McGee, Mal Campbell and Rob Phillips, the only riders to finish on the same lap. There's the on-bike camera.
And the crew just looking around the bike now. The temperature may have gone down a little, and perhaps they're looking at taping up the radiator, because these bikes are very well designed, very well cooled, and they run at about 65 degrees centigrade. And if it gets too cool, then if there's a good wind and cold air, they can actually cause problems by getting too cold.
Watching Gardner go around yesterday in quite hot conditions, we noticed that the temperature gauge was virtually static on 100 degrees centigrade. It seemed to me to be a bit hot.
And there's the camera on the bike. That little round thing in behind the screen, in itself, that probably weighs only about half a kilo. Then there's about another kilo and a bit of transmitter in the petrol tank. And then behind Wayne Gardner, there's a little white bubble. It's been painted to match the colour scheme of the bike, and it's just slightly raised in the middle, and that, in fact, is the aerial. But that's what Wayne Gardner's looking at the moment, crouched behind the screen of this Grand Prix machine as they're waved away. It's a great start by Gardner, but by Michael Dowson particularly.
It's Robbie Phillips, however, who'll slam across them to take the lead for the second round. There's Gardner now, tucked in behind Phillips. Dowson down the inside, McElnay as well. Gardner's back in fourth position. You're riding with him. The V4 Honda pulls out alongside McElnay's bike, but Gardner decides to make discretion on the opening lap and pulls back in behind McElnay. Fantastic stuff, this.
As you can see, it's impossible to pass through those very, very tight corners.
Beautiful stuff there of McElnay tucking his wheel out of the way of the curbing and doing it again as they come onto the main straight. And Gardner winds the bike up. You can see the tacho reaching for 12,000. But it's Michael Dowson who leads the race. And Robbie Phillips has fallen back to about fifth in a frantic opening lap. And so Gardner tails Dowson.
And as you can see, his speed of the V4 Honda just obliterated everybody else. A little wheelie there as he tucks in behind Dowson, and in fact almost pulls alongside before they get to the braking at the end. And you saw Dowson's back wheel twitch there under heavy braking. And he's right up behind the Pitman's Yamaha now.
Look at the tachometer in the right-hand bottom screen there. 7, fiddling about. And coming back down, and then you watch it light up.
And Gardner had to run wide there because the Yamaha was so slow through the middle of the corner. But now he's on the straight. He just squirts the V4 Honda.
Now under brakes comes Gardner. Down the inside of Dowson. McElnay lurking in the background. Gardner's through him. Is Dowson on the outside of him? We'll wait to come out of the corner to see.
And the thing is that Michael Dowson, that Gardner doesn't really know, because unlike race cars, there are no rear vision mirrors on racing motorcycles. The rider moves around too much to make them any use, so it's only by looking and by sense that they know whether somebody's coming by or not.
And on lap 2, Wayne Gardner takes over the lead. Rob McElnay now comes up to challenge Michael Dowson.
And this was a very interesting scrap between the two of them in the last race, and it's Campbell in fourth place, ahead of McGee on the 750 Yamaha and Dave Peterson on the private Honda. But that's Gardner leading on G from Dowson, and McElnay closing now, with Campbell also doing a good job, ahead of McGee and Peterson P there on the Creepy Crawley Honda.
And behind him, of course, comes Peter Radford on the Galena Suzuki, the bike that he dropped in the first heat earlier today, which has been repaired.
As also did Peterson drop his Honda.
And here we are for ABC viewers throughout Australia. All the pleasure and none of the pain as Wayne Gardner has to scrape his knee on the tarmac. But you get to see what it's like to be on one of the fastest Grand Prix bikes in the world, ridden by one of the fastest Grand Prix riders.
And McElnay now right behind Dowson. He said that the 750 Yamaha was faster than the Suzuki, and you can see it pull away. Poor old McElnay was a little bit perturbed. His machine's been slow all year through the Grand Prix season, and he'd hoped that at least when he came to Australia, only Gardner's bike would be faster. He said, well, it's all right to be passed by Spencer at the Grand Prix, but when you get passed by an old 750 Yamaha in a straight line, it's really disheartening. And he tries on the brakes to pass Dowson. Yes, he does it. He just got in front of him, and Dowson almost turned into him, noticed him at the last minute and just gave way.
4 laps down. Gardner is 3.67 seconds ahead of McElnay. Can Rob do anything about it?
And Campbell, number 3, now closes up on Dowson. Campbell very disappointed with his first race performance because he had problems first with the brake and then with the clutch on the 3-cylinder Honda Australia machine fitted with its new works engine.
Yes, in fact, it was at about this point that Mal Campbell totally ran out of clutch in the first heat, changing gears without it, and said he was pretty rough. But McElnay leading the rest of the race, the one that Wayne Gardner's not involved with.
Now this is good news for McElnay because Dowson should, with a little bit of luck, hold up Campbell. I'm sure Campbell will be determined to get on terms with the Suzuki, but he's going to have to battle to get past the 750 Yamaha, being ridden very hard here by Michael Dowson.
Well, imagine the problems of such as McElnay gets wide and wonders what it was that sent his bike sliding sideways there. The problems of Michael Dowson, but even more so of Malcolm Campbell riding 3, who hasn't ridden that bike for 1 year. And racing against somebody like Rob McElnay, who's been racing it perhaps every second weekend, a Grand Prix 500cc machine. That's what Mal Campbell's coping with, trying to get into the groove and to get the maximum out of his machine, as Wayne Gardner comes up to lap Kevin Maxwell from New Zealand on the Roberts Suzuki, the machine that Dave Hiscock campaigned in the Swann series.
Gardner riding superbly on the powerful V4, sliding the back wheel as he slips across the very slippery patch that is laid by the drag bikes. Knee out as he flicks down through the gearbox. Machine only waving very, very slightly. And we watch now McElnay on M, still leading Dowson and Campbell. And in the background, Peterson on P, trying to close in on them.
Gardner with a lead of 5 seconds on the Rothmans Honda.
So he's opening at a distance of about a second and a bit per lap as Dowson ranges down the inside. McElnay too quick to him and takes the corner.
And Campbell did very, very well to get round the outside of Maxwell on the big Suzuki.
Campbell riding his heart out in this event. I expect big things from Mal Campbell as he moves to Oran Park next weekend.
He's a truly great competitor is Campbell.
And ultra fit, which goes for him as well. Malcolm Campbell been riding production and superbikes all year. This is his first Grand Prix bike ride for 1 year, so it really is a big task. And Wayne Gardner, there's the gap. Back to second place, Rob McElnay on the back straight.
And did you see how much Michael Dowson was using his brakes at the end of the main straight? And there again, you can see the back wheel coming right off the ground as he just lays into that front wheel and puts 100% braking effort onto the front wheel alone.
So that means the whole braking force to stop that 150 miles an hour machine, that sort of thing that it's doing at the end of the straight, it's all being put through the tiny contact patch of the front tyre. No braking effect really from the wheel at all at the back because it's off the ground.
And Malcolm Campbell reaches out and says, "Excuse me, yes I am still here," as Michael Dowson looks behind him to see Campbell lurking in behind him. And the eyes of Malcolm Campbell are a fearsome sight to behold when he's in that position right behind you and looking to overtake.
And Campbell got to weigh up now where he can pass the Yamaha. The Honda should be better on the brakes, it should be a little bit quicker through the corners, but the Yamaha seems to have good punch out of the turns and it's got some speed, so it's not going to be easy for Campbell to get past.
Old sparring partners from production bike race days. Michael Dowson, of course, a Yamaha rider, Malcolm Campbell, Honda, and they've met many times in production racing. Both winners of the Castrol 6 Hour.
And it's good to see Campbell going so well on the Honda Australia machine because Honda Australia have done a very good job of helping out the foreign competitors. They helped out Peterson, who's had a lot of problems through practice, and they helped out Alan Carter, who had trouble with his 250. That's thanks to Clyde Wolfenden and the rest of the Honda Australia squad, who've been very hospitable to all the visiting riders.
Look at Mal Campbell getting every last ounce out of that bike under brakes. Really working it hard. The carbon fibre Suzuki, the old Yamaha TZ750, and then Mal Campbell on the V3 Honda.
There's the race leader.
For the V4 Honda of Wayne Gardner.
There's second place, Rob McElnay, and right behind him comes bike 1, Michael Dowson, with bike 3, Mal Campbell, jammed in his exhaust pipes.
9.4 seconds Gardner back to McElnay, 1.65 seconds from McElnay to Michael Dowson, and to Malcolm Campbell, 1.65.
And is Campbell just playing a very, very wily game?
Well, Dowson looked over his left shoulder, and Campbell thought that'll do me, and went down the right-hand side. Couldn't quite make it.
It seems that there's a few spots of rain about, which would be terrible if it did rain and spoil this superb battle we are having for third place.
Behind all this, we've got Peterson 5th, Radford 6th, Robbie Phillips up to 7th in front of Kevin McGee, who slipped back one place in the last lap to 8th, and then Chris Oldfield is 9th. And that's bad luck for McGee, who came into a very heady fourth place on bike 2 in the first heat after getting a very poor start. And look at Mal Campbell sweeping into that corner fast, trying to come out of it fast enough to match the speed of the 750 Yamaha up the back straight.
And something dropped off Dowson's machine there, I suspect. He could just have run over something already lying on the track, but I don't think so. Something seemed to go bouncing down the road.
It's a horrible thing to say, but with a bike that old, even though they have been doing a grandfather's axe job on it, it's a bit of a lottery waiting around to see what will break on it, isn't it?
Well, the Pitman's men have done a great job, I think, with that machine.
Here's Wayne Gardner, up the back straight. Winds into the S's. You're on board with him again. Gardner just holding the revs at about 7,000 to 8,000 RPM, not using the power to any great degree. Then just up here, this little bike, up to 9.5, and then winds it back out, up the main straight again. There's McElnay in second position.
And McElnay now out on his own, away from Dowson and Campbell. McElnay said that it was actually hard work in the first race. There's a lot of corners on this tight circuit and very little time to rest.
The gap between second placed McElnay, third placed Michael Dowson, has gone out now to nearly 3.5 seconds.
And just what can Campbell do to try and get past the Yamaha? I said the Honda's lighter, it should be better on the brakes, but when you watch them at the end of the straight here, Campbell has the back wheel well off the ground. It's pattering there, you can see it juddering off the ground. He can't brake any harder than that. And he doesn't seem to be able to make up any ground on Dowson.
Well, Dowson's bike really has come good this year. Last year in the Swann Insurance Series, it took them till Surface Paradise for the Pitman's team to really get their act together and to get the bike into development. The first 2 rounds were used as a development exercise. Now, Dowson's really up there, and with a bit of reliability, he could do very well by the end of the series.
And it's in fact the brakes, front forks, are one of the things that the team has improved before this series. They've taken the forks off their 750 Superbike, the road-based machine, and they seem to be working better than the units that were on the machine last season. And they're coming up on the tail enders now. Maxwell to be lapped for the second time, and that's a big advantage for Dowson, who slips past, and Maxwell holds up Campbell. Campbell, in fact, almost ran into back of Maxwell's machine. Poor Maxwell just a little bit too slow on the apex, and Campbell almost hit him.
And the frustration for Malcolm Campbell as he sits in behind that Robert Suzuki must be immense, as now he powers out. But just look at the gap that Dowson's opened up, and he can imagine the anguish which Malcolm Campbell's feeling at this moment. Just one set of S's and it's all over.
And as we look back to the field for a second, we caught a glimpse of Peterson trying to defend his 5th place from Radford, but that's Campbell now we're watching, chasing Dowson hard.
With Robbie Phillips and Kevin McGee behind them. But it's Campbell now trying to make up that gap. There's 16 laps completed on their 17th. Wayne Gardner finishes his 17th. He has 3 remaining. But it's literally half a lap gap between him and the rest of the field. A lead for Wayne Gardner after 17 laps of 13.7 seconds over Rob McElnay, and 3.2 seconds back to third place Dowson as we get on the bike again. A very privileged position, because only a few motorcyclists have ever been on a V4 Honda. It's only factory riders, and Peter Clifford stabbing his chest. But You didn't ride it quite as hard as this, I suspect.
I certainly did, and I was lucky enough to have a test on this machine in Japan just before coming to Australia, and I can tell you that nothing will prepare you for riding this bike. I've ridden some very fast motorcycles, but forget all the turbocharged street bikes, the fast 750 Yamahas or whatever any of you may have ridden. This machine just puts the lot absolutely in the shade. And of course, saying that the bike is incredibly quick doesn't detract from Gardner, because he has to actually ride it. Not an easy job. Watching Dowson now, number one, still holding third place from Campbell.
In fact, well, Wayne Gardner has worked very, very hard indeed to get into this position, to get a bike like that, as we see Peterson and Radford getting closer to Peterson, but Gardner coming round now, completed 19, goes out on his final lap, and with his massive lead, let's have a look at how he does it. You watch the rev counter. And then it starts to go like a rocket, up a cog. Feather there slightly over 12,000 revs. And look how hard he works it down the back straight. And then how hard he works himself through these S's. Fabulous stuff on this camera, transmitter and aerial that in total weigh just 2 kilos, that the Englishman David Earl has reduced from 20 kilos just a year ago, and which in Jackie X's Porsche at Spa filmed, unfortunately, the whole horrifying accident in which
and he wins there.
Stefan Beloff was killed, but Wayne Gardner victorious in 2 out of 2 heats at the 1985 Swann International Series. And that means he is 1/3 of the way as Rob McElnay comes into second place on the carbon fibre Suzuki, with Wayne Gardner and Michael Dowson third, Mal Campbell fourth. Wayne Gardner is 1/3 of the way to perfect scores, to taking out a $50,000 contingency for any man who can win all rounds of the series. There's the aerial on the back of the bike, just that white bubble above the number plate G. You see it there against his blue leathers. And you're looking, I suggest, Peter Clifford, at a young man at 26 who's earned, by great skill and great professional devotion to the cause of being a Grand Prix motorcycle rider, all that he's got so far, and who has the skill, the ability and now the machinery to go on to being, certainly he's among the top in the world. Can he get to the very top?
Well, I know for certain that Honda think he can do it. They actually, in a way, hope that he can beat Freddie Spencer. They very much like this man, who has travelled to Japan all the time between his commitments in Europe. He's won the Suzuka 8-hour endurance race for them in Japan. He won many races of local Japanese status for them, and he's really put himself out for Honda, and is now reaping the just rewards, because he goes into next year's World Championship with every chance of beating the reigning World Champion Freddie Spencer. He'll have the machinery to do it, and I'm sure that Spencer is a very worried man.
Although in a very level-headed way, he says this is not the year, next year's not the year in which he hopes or is really trying to do it, but the year after he would really love to get very serious about it. But he is a great credit, and he's been throughout his career very loyal to Honda. He had 6 teams offering him a contract this year, narrowed it to 2, the Lucky Strike Kenny Roberts Yamaha team in America, and when Honda specifically said you can have exactly the same machinery, be on an equal footing with the twice 500cc world champion Freddie Spencer, Gardner put his signature on the contract.
Yes, he certainly earned his place, and although he may now say that he's going to be conservative and take things easy next year, I've watched him through the season, and if the opportunity is there, Gardner will be beating Spencer.
Well, sheltering under the umbrellas as the rain just starts to fall down again, Wayne Gardner. You're lucky it didn't rain out there.
I was very, very lucky. That's basically why I didn't back off the whole race, because I thought I'd try and pull out as much margin as I can between myself and second. And if it did rain, then I could ride an extra bit slower and be a lot safer towards the end and hopefully still make it. So that was my plan, but it didn't quite rain anyway, so it still worked out great anyway.
Wayne, 2 wins in 2 races. That $50,000 is looking pretty good.
Well, actually, I'm not even thinking about it at the moment. I'm just taking each race as it comes, and I try and win every race. My racing, I take it very, very seriously, and if that happens at the end of the series, then that's well and all, but I'm sure I'll have the tax man chase me after anyway, so...
Before the series started, there were people who were saying that maybe the V4 wouldn't be as quick as it's now proved. Had you always expected What's happened today to occur?
No, I really wasn't sure how to attack this sort of circuit because being a very, very small and tight circuit, I thought the bike would be a bit powerful and a bit sort of useless really to this type of small circuit, and I thought something like Rolls would be a little bit easier with less power. But no, it sort of worked the opposite way. It's worked out fantastic, and but really there's another 4 races to go and 2 more rounds, so anything can happen yet, and I was just very, very lucky it didn't rain today.
Well, the man whose $50,000 is in jeopardy at this stage is Alan Barker from Swann Insurance, and he has your first trophy here for you now.
Congratulations, Wayne. Well done, mate. I hope the $50,000 does go off, and it'll be great for the sport and great for you. Well, good luck for the World Series, the World Championship next year, mate.
Thank you.
Wayne, could I just hear?
Yeah, I'd just like to say really thank you to my new team, which has started this year, Stuart and Wilf and everyone all getting together. It's like a bit of a test session for next year's Grand Prix, and so far it's so good. If we can continue like this next year, I'll be very pleased. So, you know, the Rothmans Honda teams are looking very good at the moment, and also thank you very much to Swann Insurance for putting on yet another fine series, and I just hope it can continue the way it has been going.
Well, Wayne, next weekend you move into your home territory, and probably everyone in Wollongong is going to come to Oran Park to see you.
Well, I hope so. I'd like to see everyone up there as much as possible. I'll try and put on a good show and hopefully try and do what I did today.
Well, that's the Swann Insurance Series from this end of the track. Let's go now back to Central Commentary and Will Hagan and Peter Clifford.
And the crowd really has been very privileged today to see that V4 Honda, Wayne Gardner in the saddle, and of course the man who'll be challenging him from the Marlborough Yamaha team, Rob McElnay, along with the 1983 world champion Eddie Lawson. The point score as they go to the second round next weekend at Oran Park, of course, sees Wayne Gardner with a perfect lead, 30 points from 15 in each of 2 heat wins, and 24 McElnay from 2 second places, 12 each. Michael Dowson 20, Malcolm Campbell 14, Kevin McGee 12, and Robbie Phillis, a remarkable job there on a non-Grand Prix race bike, holding 8 points, but doing a superb job early in the races, particularly in the first heat, where he led for so many laps and really was very well placed. And there, from that aerial